Hi all, welcome to this latest edition of Off the Post. Apologies for nothing last week, joys of trying to get everything done before holidays and just didn't happen in the end, which is a bit of a shame, but it's one of those things. But plenty to kind of delve into. Also, it was international break, and international breaks we generally aren't a fan of, solely because of it can get a bit convoluted with how the games are playing just now, because everyone's basically playing 3 games over the international break. And it can be kind of hard to keep up because people have got to kind of balance out their squads, and sometimes some nations may prioritise one game over the other, or depending how, like with the Nations League, they're trying to obviously prioritise either staying up or they may not care or whatever it may be. But we'll give a quick run through of it. Like Scotland obviously are now in like the top table, as it were, in like Group A, which is League even, as they call it. But fair play to them, like they've had to dig hard. They've got 2 wins against Ukraine and Republic of Ireland respectively, and then did the work in Poland getting a draw. All they had to do was not lose, which was great. So they did that, and it was weird that was like the first game of like the Nations League, of like this batch, whatever I think. Wales were obviously a bit unlucky. Like the best game I think of all of them was like Turkey and Luxembourg. That was 3-3 on like Thursday night. I seen bits of it when in holiday, and it was just something else to watch. It was like, my God, what am I witnessing here? But it was like Luxembourg definitely, certainly looking like there's potential for to be a half decent, like the group like Luxembourg were in, Faroe Islands, Lithuania, Turkey. What was the intriguing part was it like in paper you might have thought Lithuania might be second, but in reality Luxembourg and Faroe Islands both fought for second. Faroe Islands were just unlucky. They got a result against Turkey in their last group game, when Turkey at the time had done enough already going into like the last group games, because the Turkey-Luxembourg one was literally dependent on Luxembourg winning. But it's good to see with the smaller nations, really. That's what I think it comes down to. Like some of the smaller nations, because for them, there's not a real expectation for doing well, but some of them do it. They sometimes just pull it off, and like fair play to them, they just get on with it, and it gives them a chance to get a win on the board, which they may not normally get. Yes, they're playing generally all their relative opposition, but at the end of the day, you've got to beat what's put in front of you. England obviously relegated to League B. It feels rare to say that Scotland, in terms of Nations League, are better than England technically, but obviously at the same time, it's just because you've got to remember England had Germany, Hungary, Italy in their group, yet they still finished bottom. That is what's quite important to note. Hungary were unlucky to not actually win the group. Came down to like the last group game for that, and Italy got the win that mattered, and end of the day they've got through, so they're now in the semis. So fair play. I mean, that gives Scotland a chance next time as well to actually suddenly say to themselves, we've actually got a chance for a trophy. We could actually win the Nations League. My word, that could be. It'd almost feel like, my word, what we achieved here. But then, like with the other groups as well, because there's so many like league, it's like League C1 and all that, and you try to keep up with all, and you're like, what? It's like what? It's like what? That's what it's like. But Georgia were most impressive in their group. Like North Macedonia, I think a lot of people wouldn't have initially anticipated North Macedonia in a group of Georgia, Bulgaria, Gibraltar to finish third. But they did. Like Georgia romped that group, 5 wins and 1 draw, and the 1 draw was a 0-0 Borefest against Bulgaria. I remember watching bits of that game. Group D, the other one. This one was like group. This was like a group 2 or whatever. It was like Estonia, Malta, San Marino. It was just 4 games in the group, so it was like obviously home and away, and it was basically in the last group game. It was a case of whoever won, depending on like the score, I think it was, would go through to League C, and in this case it was Estonia got the one over Malta 2-1. So fair play on that. Like, it's good for some of the smaller nations. It just gives them half a chance, and like, yes, they may get kind of like annihilated by some of the half decent, especially if there's a half decent nation that's fell down the groups. That's what then makes it all the more interesting, really, because you'd say to yourself, oh, I wouldn't expect that. From a domestic point of view, the one that I found the most interesting point of view was, if you follow the Chinese league, Wuhan Three Towns finally lost after 18 games. It took them 18 games, and it was a 4-3 thriller. What made it all the more impressive was that the team that beat them are just above the relegation zone, Kangzhou. So you would say to yourself, really, a team that's basically relegation fodder at the moment. Their main man, Kanti, who used to play in Poland, he ran away with 4 goals. Like, fair play to him. Like, what makes Kanti like an interesting part is that in 2 of his seasons in Poland it was double figures, but like it got him to the dance hall a little bit because Ligue were the ones that nabbed him. But yeah, it was an interesting game to keep an eye on when I was away. Like, you sometimes just have a look at when you're on like a coffee break or whatever, and you say, oh, there's a game that stands out, 4-3. But domestically, really over the weekend in England, with like the National League was where all the excitement was, and also League One. I seen Plymouth and Ipswich when I was on my walks. It was like literally, must have been because it was like a lunchtime game. Like when you're walking past like cafes and pubs and whatnot, or even just screens in general, you just see it, and it was like people were just like, it just gives them something to watch, because obviously there might have not, because if there's not a, like, say, a Spanish game on at the time, or any other leagues that are kicking about, and sometimes depending where you were as well, they might have had it on, like they might have had like a Spanish game, or if there's, because some of the international games were early as well. I think it was a couple in that like 2-3 o'clock bracket, if memory serves. And they were the ones that you just said, I'll keep an eye on them, because you knew, you said, oh, you didn't in essence have to check your phone to check the scores, because you knew as you were walking past everywhere, and you knew with like the cheers going on, depending where you went. But one, like, Wrexham's running a little bit riot, I noticed in their game. Still not top of the league, which I found funny. I was looking at 10 games. Wrexham still sit second behind Chesterfield. But yeah, Dagenham Redbridge Barnet 5-4. That was the highest scoring game of the weekend, I believe. Like 9 goals, a 9-goal thriller. Takes a bit of doing. Takes a real bit of doing. Regardless of what division, really. But yeah, no, that's what you sometimes want and see in football. I know that from what I've seen on like the Sunday, I know Plymouth and Ipswich was a Sunday game, but I only referenced that because I said like weekend walks, because I know some of these like Nations League games were early as well, and like Spanish second division, that was kind of like one league that you generally do get to see when you're abroad. Like there's some, it's like channels will tend to show it, but it's just try to keep an eye on everywhere, really, because you see yourself, keep an eye out, and oh, that's a game to keep an eye on, and because I was always, when I go abroad, I always try and see if I can fit a game, like watch a game, but it didn't happen on this occasion. For the stadium that I had to visit, if you were getting there by public transport, it was basically going to take you an hour and a half, when in reality it would only take you an hour to get there. You had to walk like 20 minutes, 30 minutes back. Basically the bus went past the stadium, like literally right past the stadium, but apparently there's not a stop at the stadium. The next stop for that bus in question was about another mile up the road. I'm like, really? How is that possible? I was like, that can't be right. But apparently it was true. I didn't ever try it just to be sure, because I thought not wanting stung, as it were. And I thought I wasn't really overly fussed. I was more interested in if it was like the first team, because it was a reserve game, not a. And it's something that I think it's also maybe because of that. Like the reserve stadiums a little bit further away, whereas if it's like the main stadiums are a little bit closer, but you just try and work with what you get. What was I saying? As I said, in terms of our like domestics that were still kicking about, like you had like Argentina, Irish League as well. They were all kind of still flowing, and because they've got to get games. Well, a lot of these leagues have still got to play like twice a week, near enough. So it's just playing. It's like playing catch up really for them all. But they get on with it. Like Kosovo, in their group with Cyprus, Greece, and Northern Ireland. I didn't realise that because they got hammered so much by Cyprus, we getting hammered by Kosovo, relegated them. Northern Ireland, despite them getting hammered by Greece, basically the goal difference just swung enough in Northern Ireland's favour. So fair play, like, 'cause it just kept them up. Mariki's had a very good international break. I think it's over the international break. He's got something like about, I think it's like 4 or 5, like 4 goals nearly, like, which takes about doing, like regardless of how you go about it. Really, that's what's important. And if he's like, regardless of who you're facing, but if you're getting goals in and just going about your business, you're laughing. But yeah, it was like 3 goals and 2 assists or something. I'm sure it was like 3 goals or 4 goals over. I'd noted down because I was like, oh, I kept an eye on him, because obviously Mariki, I like to keep an eye on Mallorca. But obviously this weekend we get kind of back into normality with like the leagues, like domestic football, and Bayer Leverkusen is the one that kind of stands out for the Friday night fans, which is quite good. Like, it's good to have a Friday night fans, especially when you see that Bayern are struggling at the moment. They're not firing. 3 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss, 19 goals for, 16 against. The problem is that what's keeping them in it is that, like, Dortmund have lost 2 games, one that they shouldn't have lost, and then the other one they got completely outclassed in. But it's also worth noting as well with Leipzig that they aren't exactly firing, so it kind of then makes you say nobody's really firing consistently in the league, because Union Berlin, top of the league, 5 wins, 2 draws, going into international break. Freiburg sit third, which they're doing again like last season. What's let them down a little bit is the 2 0-0 draws against Hoffenheim and Mönchengladbach. They could have been top of the league going into the national break. But Hoffenheim just kind of going about their business, and like, yeah, no one's really firing. Bochum bottom, Wolfsburg second bottom, Leverkusen 4th bottom, Leipzig sitting 12th. It's a weird one this season. Nobody seems to be any form of consistency. I don't know what's going on whatsoever in the league, and try to put your finger on it. Like, I've listened to like German football podcasts and videos and well, it's mainly the podcasts I've been listening to, and I genuinely do not understand what is going on. But yeah, you just go on with it. Really, it's football for you. But yeah, no, it's obviously teams have just got to go about their business. Really, that is literally in its purest form. Italy's going to be an interesting one again this weekend because obviously Inter and Roma play, so it's like another test for like Roma to say, right, well, can we get a result this time after not getting a result against Atalanta, who sits second at the moment, joint with Napoli on 17. Inter's obviously not firing either, but it's worth noting that two of their losses were AC and Lazio. Well, Udinese seem to be the surprise bunch at the moment. Just the one loss, 5 wins on the spin, 1 draw, sit with 16. And I think it's like when you look at the top 8, if you were to say to me at the start of the season that would be your top 8 in terms of current positions going into the international break, I would have probably said no. Udinese would be the only one I would take out, but then who would I put in its spot? I would have probably looked at Torino or Fiorentina personally. But Udinese I may have looked at a little bit to be close, only because of like De La Feu, Beto. They seem like, part of me feels like, is there a bit of motivation to kind of deliver suddenly? Like, are they suddenly firing? But either way, like Napoli, Atalanta, Lazio, AC Milan, Roma, Inter, Juventus, I would have all had in the top 8. It would have just been position wise, I wouldn't have been certain whatsoever. Especially even after 7 games, I would have been like, I might have had like Atalanta. See, I personally might have had like Roma, like say 2nd or 3rd. But I think it's just you're just trying to pinpoint like where teams would be, and it's just thinking really. It makes it for good thought process really. Hearts and Rangers, all 6 games in Scottish Premiership play Saturday as well. Rangers and Hearts being a TV game. We'll delve into the TV deal after we've kind of recapped all the games, because I feel this needs its own bit, and it needs quite a bit of like talking and just my kind of thoughts on it really. I know I spoke about it like about a month ago or something when it was first kind of to the fore, and now it's kind of like, obviously it was accepted I believe Sunday or Monday, and if you kind of read into it further, it's like it's still kind of crap really in essence. So let's kind of delve into it. Mallorca, Barcelona, Sevilla, Atletico Madrid in Spain, 2 noteworthy games. Portugal's not really getting too much love this weekend for a big game, but is what it is. Eredivisie is kind of the same. But yeah, it's like, if I'm honest, all eyes are probably on Italy, Germany, PSG Nice maybe to a slight extent, I suppose. Premier League obviously is Arsenal Tottenham is the kind of like big game of the weekend if you want to give it that kind of attention. Obviously the Manchester derby as well. That's going to be fun. Thank God it's not the same day. Could you imagine they made that kind of muck up? That would have been a laugh. Like, but Man City, Man United, that could go either way. Like in some people's eyes, but part of me thinks Man City might just take Man United to the cleaners. But you never know. We will see come Sunday afternoon. But yeah, there's like this weekend. It's kind of like like when you break it all down, it's derbies. There is a few when you kind of go like scouring across the leagues, like as I say, Besiktas, Fenerbahce in Turkey. But like when you kind of like really like dig down, like there's not very much to kind of say. like in essence excite you if you're someone that's just trying to look for like big games and leagues. It's like Italy, Turkey, PAOK and Panathinaikos in Greece, and then also with how Germany is this season so far, probably all the German games I've got a bit of excitement about them. But that's half the fun really, with like how football is just now, and it's just getting used to it really, and just saying to yourself, right, what have I got to excite me with this week? Especially if you're like a neutral that just enjoys football. That's what it sometimes comes down to, and you say, right, well, I've got this league. Who's playing? Oh, it's these teams, and that's what makes all the difference. It's just knowing who's playing, who's not, and especially with like how TV deals work nowadays, it's just trying to find what balance. Especially if you're someone that wants to say, right, it's like say come Friday night, you're like, right, what's on what? Oh, we've got this on maybe BT, or this is on Sky, this is Premier Sports, or this is BN, or Sport TV, or depending where you are in the world, if you know like what kind of deals that you can kind of put together, and balance and whatnot, but you just go on with it really. And talking about TV deals, as I said, with Scotland, the biggest one obviously is with the it's now like £150 million, and like what I hate is that like when you kind of read some people's thoughts on it, it's like Rangers aren't happy with it, which is right, because Rangers are of the mindset you're underselling it, which is true. It is massively underselling it, especially because like even though it's been extended till 2029, like only 60 games a season just now is a bit rubbish, because it necessarily means especially when you've got midweek games, and this is a big point, like Scottish football has quite a decent amount of midweek fixtures, and I remember I think it was last season, and then I think it was the season before COVID, you had the midweek games were the games worth watching, and I think if you had BT were showing, I think it was 2 of the games, but Sky, I think last season in the same situation, were not showing it. It was like, I think it was like you had Hibs, Hearts, Celtic. It was like basically Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, and Rangers. I think it was like for who they were all playing, it was like, oh, these are like big games, and not one of them's on the telly, and that was like the criticism. And it was like, and it was in all the papers, like Scottish papers, that say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, why is none of these games on the telly? And it was like, yes, the weather was not too bad on those nights, but it wasn't the point. It was like, it would have made for good. It was almost seems like this is like a blockbuster midweek fixtures, and you had like other leagues that were showing games, and people were like, oh, well, why not show Scottish? You could have shown 2 Scottish games and you'd been laughing. It's like, what's the point in a TV deal? And that's what it was, and this gives the same feeling. And it goes to the point of like they say, oh, 80 games are increase, oh, like big whoop, 20 extra games. What annoys me is, and some people say it's like stability with staying with Sky. For me, yes, it's great, but like Rangers brought up the point, it's like, why not put it out there to other people, like especially when you like Gordon would probably have, like Ron Gordon for Hibs would have looked at options of like who's out there, because you would say, well, your primary UK provider, you'd say, well, it's either Sky or BT. That's the way you'd look at it. BT's probably like, well, I'm not really want to give big money, but at the same time they do show like the European games for when it's like Hearts, Celtic, Rangers anyways, and they've done like the Scottish football programme that they still do from time to time as well, like near enough every week anyway, Scottish Football Extra, like, so there's a lot of things like that they could do, they could have said, right, well, this is what you'd say. Well, this is what Sky is offering just now. You'd say they're offering £30 million a season. For 5 seasons, it's 150 million. Can you offer us 40 million or 50 million? What more can you offer? And especially, even though they've got like the 4 main channels plus all the like your extra channels that like the red button channels like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and that. There's still, you could have still said, right, well we'll do more for like the TV deal, as it were, that it just gives more viewers, as it were, to the like these games potentially. But like Sky, for me, what annoys me with them is there's been times where it's been quite lacklustre, and like whether it be on Sky Sports News to other areas, and you just say, really, and it just feels a bit of a letdown, really. But you just get on with it, really. But I suppose it's like it's the effort that they're putting in. That's what it comes down to. If they're putting a good production together, it's fine. But BT's was always quite good, if I'm honest. It was a good deal. For what I've read into this, like the Scottish Women's Premier League's been added this time, along with potentially the League Cup. Like the League Cup, BT and BBC were usually ones that would show it, like when it was the group games, and same for like any of the knockout games. But if I'm brutally honest, it goes back, and with the Scottish Women's Premier League, Alba was the main channel, or BBC Scotland would show that already, and well, it's great that Sky are adding it into the deal. What I would be saying, to kind of like bulk up the entire deal for Scottish football, as it were, is because I believe there's only a handful of games that they're given for like the Women's Premier League, which is a bit of a joke. Scottish Women, like, what's the point? It's same for even I think the League Cup. You say, right, well, you take one game a week. That's all. That's what all this needs to be. Is you at least take a minimum of one game a week for, like say the Premier League. But what you do is, the reason why you take a minimum of one. But if teams are in Europe, so like Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, you then have them on the Sunday. You've got them generally going to be on a Sunday, so you say, right, well, we want them on the telly. You maybe make it. You maybe take 2 of those games. So you maybe at least put one of them. You maybe take a lunchtime game as well. So maybe in essence you'll have, say, 3 or 4 games on a Saturday, but one's at lunchtime, 3 o'clock kickoffs. Maybe the 2 or 3 others on the Sunday are all TV games. So you're ending up maybe half the division you're going to show on telly. Maybe up till say Christmas, and maybe even potentially post Christmas, and that's, I think, where criticism does come in. Like it's probably it's easy enough to make it like 2 or 3 games a week that you could show, but it's almost like they're only wanting like 1 game a week, when you're like, really, you only want like 1 game a week? It's like, don't you want to be on the telly? That's what I think. And obviously, like, it is important to obviously note, like, yes, the one area that was done through COVID was more like pay-per-view stuff, so obviously because we couldn't go into the grounds to watch the games, but the clubs were obviously streaming it, and they were saying, oh, it's like a tenner to watch this game, and the clubs would make a bit of an effort, saying this is like the pay-per-view, and it kept an opportunity. And like a lot of clubs already run like their own like media things anyway, especially if you don't live in the UK. You maybe live in Spain or Australia or America, and you support those clubs, but where you're on holiday or you live there, whatever, and you say to yourself, right, well, how can I watch these games, as it were? And like the one point that a lot of the clubs are trying, it's not just the clubs, but it's also like the executives are saying like, oh, we're trying to get more fans on the ground. The biggest points I've noticed over the years, and I've said it enough times, is we should be a summer league, because we're a cold country and it is absolutely, who wants to go to Kilmarnock? No offence to Kilmarnock, but who wants to go to a place like Kilmarnock on a cold, wet January when it's like -5 on like say a Saturday afternoon? It doesn't matter if it's a lunchtime game or an evening game, especially, or even if you're going to go to like Aberdeen or Ross County. Imagine going to Dingwall for a 12:30 kickoff if you're whether it be a Rangers fan, a Hibs fan. Say that was a TV game. A fan's got to get up there on the Friday. They basically finish their work on a Friday, whether they're working from home or working in an office or wherever they may be, or hospital, whatever. They've got to get up to Dingwall for basically by that morning, like by the time by end of Friday night, whether they're driving up, bussing it, whatever it may be. They've got to factor in all those costs. They've got to factor in the hotel costs, and they've also got to factor in the get back down the road as well, because it's near enough dark when they go up, especially when you're talking like say December, January. But you've then got to factor in it's going to be dark on the way back, so it's quite taxing, regardless, because you've literally not seen daylight except for being at the football. But at the same time, it's say the weather's miserable, and regardless if you're a Hibs fan, Livingston, Hearts, Rangers, whoever it may be, the game could be absolutely crap. It could be 1-0, 90th minute, and you just say to yourself, I've travelled hundreds of miles to watch one of the worst games of football in my life. I've spent, say, 25 quid for this ticket, and I've maybe had to spend another 100 just to get up here. Was it worth it? Absolutely not. And what would be annoying is if that same game was then played in, say, June, and it was maybe, say, all the persons having to fight, and it was, we'll say the same time, we'll say a 12:30 kick-off on a Saturday, and all they've had to factor in this time is travelling up on a Saturday morning, like maybe say crack of dawn, like say 6 in the morning, or 7, whatever time they've maybe set off it, but they know they can get there before kick-off, and they've literally, all they've had to factor in is ticket price even, and then the like travel costs and any food, and before you know it, they've saved maybe all told 100 quid, 150 quid, and it goes back to that cost of living argument. But at the same time, like for me, I would rather be going, like I would like a Friday. I wouldn't like they're wanting to push the Friday night games again. Like I enjoyed pre-COVID, there was a few of the Friday night games. It was like and it was great just to actually go along and watch, because it was under the lights. The nights that I was going, it wasn't cold. You were going there with your friends, and it was brilliant. You just knew that you were chilling there. That you got Friday night game in. The games were good because it's maybe a 2-2 or a 2-1. You're maybe getting a result. Hibs might have been getting a result, or whoever's game you were watching was getting. It was a good result to watch, and like for me, like the tickets were reasonably priced, I think, as well, because whether you're a student or whether you're just a fan in general, it was a way to try and bring in the fans. That was what they were trying to do. It's like say, so you've came for your work, or you've came for your uni, or whatever it may be. Oh, here's a ticket, it's a tenner or a fiver, or whatever. And like, we should be trying to encourage fans to, like, it's like you're trying to encourage fans to go to the games. Like, I wouldn't pay, like, regardless if you're a season ticket holder or someone that just wants to go and see all the home games, like what it comes down to is fundamentally the cost. Like if the ticket price of a game is 25 quid, you see yourself, and especially as more clubs have, there's ways around, like with like streaming and that, where there's ways that you can be like, oh, I can watch that on the telly and it saves me 25 quid. Oh, I've got to do some, tell everyone come round. And the thing is, you're taking money away from the club, because you might have a group of 6s, say, or a group of 10. Because of lockdown, you might have built your own beer garden, man cave, whatever, own bar space that's literally just for, say, like football, darts, sport. You just try it, because you've obviously just got your own space to say, right, I want to enjoy watching the sport in my own private space, but also it's a space that if people want to come and enjoy, and that's what it comes down to, because people then say, oh, I've maybe got Amazon, like Prime, or anything that just allows them a workaround to say, oh, I can stream Sky, or I can stream BT, or I can stream my club's if you want to say TV stuff, like the games, I can literally just stream it for the house, and that's the thing. Like, it's opened up like doors and can of worms that people might think, oh, you've got to watch, because like what falls into legality, and because it goes back to the argument of the blackout between 2:45 and 5:15 in the UK. But if you're in like America, you can watch like the 3 o'clock games, no problem, like for whether it be the Premier League or whatever. And it's just a bit annoying, really, because like for me, when you kind of break it all down, it's like the one thing that I found almost annoying, and this is why I'm surprised, like outside, like going to like if you want to say America, or outside like parties, as it were, the like outside channels, where it be like DAZN, Viaplay, BN, all these type of networks. I'm surprised they've not like tried to come in and say, right, we want to take a bit of the pie, or even Amazon. Like, it goes back to the argument of, why is somebody like an Amazon not said, right, here's £15 billion, or 25 billion, and we're going to and this is for every league in the world, and it's to give TV, basically like say, we're going to stream every league on Amazon, we're going to have a dedicated football platform, and you can watch the Premier League, you can watch the Italian League, you can watch the Italian leagues, you can watch, and by like the amount of money I'm trying to suggest, it can be either for every season, or it's for 10 years, 5 years, whatever. You'd sit down and break it all down. You say, well, what you would say, like the Premier League, right? What do you value your league at per season? And they might say, oh, we value it 3 billion. France might say, but what you want to break it down is that you're not making it just the top divisions. You want to make it the top 4 primarily. So you want to say, right, we want the Premier League, we want the EFL. Do we want the National League? You would say, yes, I do, because BT already show it. We've seen it's got an audience. Like, what teams are in there? Oh, Wrexham's in there currently. Oh, they're owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. That's an audience that's getting maybe attraction because of like the US, for example. So, right, there's another league we want to show. You then say, right, the Women's League will take that. You then say, you maybe move around countries, so you maybe say with Scotland, or we've got the Premier League, it's already shown by, say, Sky, we want that. Oh, Championship, that's shown by BBC, we would like that. Leagues 1 and 2, BBC generally show it from time to time, namely at the end of the season, or we'll still take it though. Scottish Women's Premier League's BBC, or would like that. You basically want to try and take all. It goes back to the argument of like one network just taking all the sport, like all the football as it were, and you basically want to take what is kind of like shown out there already. You'd say, right, but what channels are showing the divisions? So you'd say, well, there's 6 divisions already get shown in England. Generally 2 consistently for Scotland, but we say we'll take all 3, but you'd want the 5. If you want France, it's primarily the 2. You take the main 2. Germany, you'd say it's 3. Italy, it's 2. And you just work through. You just keep working through them, and you say, right, well, what you valued it, and it's like the Allsvenskan and the second division. It's been like all the papers and whatnot. Their deal is, like, I think worth even more than what we're paying, getting. Yet, what's kind of important to note is that, like, it's just baffling, really. Like, they're able to just kind of show so much, like, and especially when it's like Discovery that's the one that's got it. Like, I'm surprised like Discovery haven't came in and said, like, why not just make it happen? Because especially when like some people will say, oh, this is what, like, there's people that's out there that, like, the network wise it would nab us, like nab Scottish football, and it's like there's accounts that put the time and effort and say we're like the 9th most viewed league in like the world or something. And I think it was when they broke it down, it was the only leagues that are more were like the top 5, Portugal, I think it was like Portugal, Eredivisie, MLS, and then I think it was like basically like Scotland was like 9th or whatever, but it was like, and then it was like for like attendance, like average attendance per like capacity or whatever, it was like we were basically in like the top, I think it was like the top 5, I think. Like we were really, really high. But I feel with us, like in terms of like Scottish football, what they need to do is if I'm brutally honest, it goes back to like they've had the chance to do league expansion twice now, or technically 3 times actually. When Rangers went at the wall, when Hearts and Hibs got relegated, and COVID. That was the prime times to do it, because you would have said, right, we don't want to lose these teams in the top division, we want them in the top division, because these are our biggest clubs in Scotland. They bring the biggest fans, they bring the big money in. We can't afford. It's like what would happen if, say, Celtic were suddenly to be in that situation. I mean, they would suddenly look at ways of saying, oh, we've got to make sure Celtic. Like, I'm surprised. In essence, they made Rangers go all the way down the divisions when still at this day, like, it's daft in a sense, because yes, every other team in like League 2, League 1 Championship suddenly is now breaking records, because they're getting like every fan in their nan suddenly going to go to these games, but all you had to do then was do league expansion and say, right, we don't want to lose Rangers because we want them in the Premiership. Right, you just add half a dozen teams, and you just basically say, right, this is our way of keeping Rangers in the top division, and you just take it from there. And like for me personally, I just feel Scottish football is mainly in the doldrums in terms of like how it markets itself, because like if I'm honest, like I just feel we could do better. Like it goes back to that, and like I've read it in a number of articles and podcasts, people saying, oh, Scottish football in essence not just sells itself short, but it's like it goes back to the argument of, well, like, there's all the other leagues, like namely the Premier League, the amount of money that brings revenue wise a season alone. All the other leagues generally don't get the same kind of like money, like TV deal wise. Maybe say in the UK, maybe in their own country they will, but even then, it's like we should be in essence doing better. Like you see, so we're going about Celtic and Rangers, and especially when people say, "Oh, Celtic and Rangers, two of the biggest clubs in the world for like fan bases and atmospheres and whatnot," and we all going about like Hibs and Hearts as well, and then you can throw in Dundee's as well, because you would say, well, you've got three big city derbies, with like good atmospheres amongst them when they're firing, and I feel like that's just what it's just little things like there was a point I read one of the podcasts that somebody made on the TV deals, Sky especially, over like the Nations, not just the Nations League but prior to the Nations League, and just like late over the years, they make like the sloppy mistakes, like they'll either do wrong badge for a country or a club, or like they'll maybe do a match report, and there was one match report and they said, oh, and this is we'll just say, oh, it's Hibs v Motherwell. It's like, but it wasn't even Hibs and Motherwell playing. It's like, who on earth is this? It was like, it wasn't even, it was a Scottish game, but it wasn't even Hibs or Motherwell, and you were like, who is it? And it was like, you were like scratching your head thinking, who on earth's playing? Or, and you're like, and it's like little mistakes like that. And when I was reading, like, one of the other points that was made up quite interesting as well, that Sky don't take their full allocation of games. Does that not tell you something? If they're not taking their full allocation of games, if the current allocation I believe just now is like 48, if they're not taking that up, and it goes back to the argument I was saying, they don't take the midweek games, and you say, well, why do you have a deal then when they're not sure? If you've got a deal to say, right, we've got 48 games a season, this is the 48 you'd initially earmark out over the season, but you would then say, is there potential to show 12 more or 20? I wouldn't even say 12 more, I would say, like, how many more can we get? Can we get another 48? Like, because Rangers, for what I've read in it, they were pushing, like, well, why not? Like, you could show more, because, and I feel they could. Like, for me personally, deep down, if other leagues can get more, why can't we? That's pretty much it. It's like 100, like, because every club's needing the money just now, and the money as well helps finance transfers, wages, but Doncaster's a dinosaur. I can't be, but I've said it for years, I can't be bothered with him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't care about Scottish football. He never has, never will. He just cares about the money in his back pocket. And I'm not excited about this TV deal at the end. Like, for me, if you were to ask me, deep down, am I happy with it? Short answer, no. I'm not happy, and because end of the day, we can get more games on telly. You've got to then look at, the clubs have then got to look at ways of how do they bring more fans in, and it goes back to ticket prices, and making the grounds appealing to actually be at. So they might look at their infrastructure within the ground. You've also then got to factor in like the league itself. Like, who wants to play the same team 4 times a season? Who wants to see that same game on the telly 4 times a season? Who then wants to then because it was, I think they said for basically Rangers and Celtic, when they show that in the telly, it's worth at least a few £1,000,000 at least alone, which tells you all you need to know. And that's why they kind of keep it to 4 games a season. And you're like, really? When just I can't be bored. Like, who wants to travel like same places 3 or 4 times, like basically twice a season? Like, you don't want to. Like, we should just be home and away. Like, we're like one of the few leagues in the world that actually does this. Like, it's so baffling. Like, it makes no sense. Like as I've always said for league expansion, it's like top division's 18, and then the other 2 main divisions you maybe have is 16, because or you maybe get 3 divisions of 18. There's enough teams between like the West of Scotland, East of Scotland, the Lowland League that have had pedigree amongst them and have got pedigree to try and compete, that you'd get them all in. And especially with like the reserve league that we're all trying hard to push, you maybe then have all the other teams that maybe aren't in it. Like, maybe that's when you then have like reserve divisions as well. So you maybe have like one, like maybe 2 reserve divisions, or maybe even just the one, depending on who wants to put a team forward. There's just so much with like the TV deal, Scottish football, that could do better. It's had multiple times to do it. That's what annoys me. It's like we've had multiple times to do it, and a lot of the times the folks that are involved in Scottish football, they're all like old fat, in blunt sense, old farts. It's like we live in the Stone Age. Oh, we don't want change. We don't want this. I'm like, yeah, you were happy to relegate Hearts, Partick, what was it, in Stranraer, but then like promote teams, like when in reality that was your perfect time to still do league expansion. Like, because it's like, what's the point? Like, I just don't understand how the logic with a lot of it, because it was like that season as well. Hibs lost out because they would have been 6th, I think, but then they were given 7th despite, what was it, I think it was 1 game less or whatever it was. And you say to yourself, really? And in the end, that's when they lose money, and then other teams lose money and all that kind of stuff. And that's what it's down to, is money. But if they thought about it, they could make even more money if they market, and that's what it is. Like, there's been enough bits put together to try and market the league better, to say you want like value for money. And it goes back to the argument of play in the summer, play between say March and October. You'd at least fit in a window that fits with like either the Scandinavian League or Irish League, the ones that kind of follow this kind of same principle. Because if I'm honest, that's the way I would work it. And it's also the marketing your league even different, because you've then got during the summer months, Scottish football would be front and centre. In the months when the Premier League's not playing, top 5 leagues aren't playing, folk would then be like, oh, I need football. Oh, I've got Scottish football. Makes sense. Like, you're marketing your product even different, that people are like, it then makes them want to pay more, because they're like, oh great, Scottish football's on June, July, I don't have to worry about some pre-season cup, or especially seasons when there's not a World Cup or a Euros. You're like, right, brilliant, sorted, I know what I've got to sit back and enjoy. Especially that's when you could then shorten, you either not necessarily space out your league, but you then try and say in June, July, you maybe then make it twice a week that they're playing, and that way you maybe come up with a package for the fans to say, right, for June and July we're going to give you maybe 8 games in that in each month, maybe, say for example, or whatever, or there's maybe, or at least however many games, we'll say maybe 8 to 16, we'll say between 10 and 16 games in the month, and you maybe say we're going to do a ticket package for you that entices the fans to encourage to come. So if it's maybe say 16 games, maybe say we'll charge the fans £100, and it's like £100 for the 16 games, blah blah blah, sorted, and that's maybe for could be a normal fan. If it's for the kids, you maybe make it say 75. Same for maybe the senior fans as well. But you sit down and work it out. That's all you've got to do. That's all you've got to do. And it's like, and I think this is what's needed between the higher ups in Scottish football. It needs a complete revamp of like fresh brains coming in. Because Doncaster, he's been in the job a long time, he's done nothing. Him and Rogan did absolutely nothing, they've still done nothing. But deep down, I just feel Scottish football could be so much better, marketing wise. And like same with a lot of the other leagues, like I would love to sit down on a weekly basis and know I can watch the top 5 leagues, Eredivisie, Portugal, MLS, where else? Obviously Scottish football. There's maybe say 10 or 15 divisions I'd happily watch, and it's not just because of say like computer games, because like FIFA, because you things at the time of that, but in general, if I want to just watch these leagues, like put a proper TV deal in place that fits for them all, and something needs done deep down, but yeah, it's a struggle really that they just can't do it, and you see yourself like, how can they not? But we'll get there. All takes time, and yeah, I wish I had the answer for that question, but sadly I don't. But sure somebody else will in due course. But as I said, hopefully you've enjoyed basically what is my ramble. Well, you get there though in the end. So hopefully you found this useful, folks. As always, let me know your thoughts on whether it be Scottish football, the fixtures ahead for the weekend, all that kind of good stuff. So have a good one, folks. Take it easy, all, and I will speak to you all later.